If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The final night. Biggie Smalls killed in drive-by shooting. The black Chevrolet Suburban rolled through the streets of Los Angeles in the early morning hours of March 9th, 1997. Inside sat Christopher Wallace, known to the world as the notorious B.I.G., fresh from a party that had ended too early. The night air was cool, and the city seemed quieter than usual. Biggie had been at the Peterson Automotive Museum for a party thrown by Vibe magazine. The event was meant to celebrate music and bring people together. But tensions ran high that night. Old wounds and street rivalries cast shadows over what should have been a celebration. When the party ended abruptly, Biggie and his crew decided to leave. They climbed into their vehicles, forming a small convoy. The rapper sat in the front passenger seat of the SUV, his massive frame filling the space. His friend Damian Butler drove, while bodyguard Big Gene Deal rode in another car nearby. The convoy moved slowly through the city streets. Traffic was light, but they hit a red light at the intersection of Wilshire Boulevard and Fairfax Avenue. The Suburban came to a stop, engine idling in the quiet night. That's when everything changed in mere seconds. A dark sedan pulled up alongside the passenger side of Biggie's vehicle. The windows were tinted, hiding whoever sat inside. Time seemed to freeze as the two cars sat side by side at that red light. Suddenly, the sedan's window rolled down. A hand emerged, gripping a pistol. The weapon looked small in the darkness, but its power would soon shake the entire music world. 4 shots rang out in rapid succession. The sound echoed off the buildings around them, sharp and final. The bullets shattered the passenger window and found their target. Biggie slumped forward, his body hit by the gunfire. The sedan sped away into the night, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. No license plate was clearly visible. No face was seen. The killer vanished like smoke, leaving behind only questions and tragedy. Damian Butler pressed hard on the gas pedal, racing towards Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. But the damage was already done. The bullets had struck vital organs, and time was running out fast. People on the street stood frozen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Some called 911. Others simply stared in shock. The King of New York had been gunned down on a Los Angeles street corner, and nobody could explain why. Within minutes, police cars arrived at the scene. Officers searched for clues, but the trail was already growing cold. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry, gang tensions, and retaliation. The streets of Los Angeles felt different that March night in 1997. Something dark was brewing beneath the glittering surface of the music industry. What started as friendly competition between rappers had turned into something far more dangerous. The East Coast and West Coast hip-hop scenes had been feuding for years. But this wasn't just about music anymore. Real gangs had gotten involved. The Bloods and Crips in Los Angeles, street crews in New York. These weren't rappers playing tough. These were actual criminals with guns and grudges. Tupac Shakur had ties to the Bloods through Death Row Records. His label boss, Suge Knight, was connected to Mob Piru, a blood set from Compton. On the other side, Biggie moved in circles that included Crips members. The music executives didn't seem to care about the danger. They made money from the drama. When Tupac died in September 1996, whispers started immediately. Someone would pay for this. The streets demanded revenge. 6 months later, those whispers turned to action. The night Biggie was killed, he'd been at a party thrown by Vibe magazine. The event was supposed to celebrate hip-hop culture. Instead, it became the setting for another tragedy. Witnesses later said they saw known gang members at the party. Men with hard faces and cold eyes. Men who didn't belong in a room full of music executives. Detective Russell Poole spent years investigating these connections. He found a web of relationships that shocked him. Gang members working as security for record labels. off-duty police officers with gang ties, money flowing from music companies to street crews for protection. One name kept appearing in Pool's files: Orlando Anderson. This Crips member had fought with Tupac hours before the rapper's death. After Tupac died, Anderson became a marked man. But Anderson had friends, powerful friends who wanted payback for their fallen brother. The detective discovered something chilling. The same car used in Biggie's murder had been spotted near other gang-related crimes. Phone records showed calls between known Crips members and people close to Biggie's case. Witness testimony painted a picture of careful planning. But every time Pool got close to the truth, his investigation hit walls. Evidence disappeared. Witnesses refused to talk. His superiors told him to focus elsewhere. The deeper he dug, the more dangerous his work became. The murder wasn't random violence. It was calculated revenge. Two of hip-hop's brightest stars had become casualties in a war that started in boardrooms and ended on city streets. The music industry had opened a door to forces they couldn't control. 27 years later, both cases remain officially unsolved. The gang connections that Detective Pool mapped out still exist in police files, locked away from public view. Investigation and obstruction, LAPD corruption and cover-up allegations. The murder scene had barely cooled when the Los Angeles Police Department took control. What should have been a thorough search for justice quickly became something else entirely, something darker. Detective Russell Poole arrived at the investigation with fresh eyes and determination. He had no idea what he was walking into. The case files seemed ordinary at first glance, but strange patterns began to emerge. Evidence disappeared from storage rooms. Witness statements vanished without explanation. Key interviews were never conducted. Poole discovered something that made his blood run cold. Several officers working the case had direct connections to death row records. They wore the same jewelry. They attended the same parties. They knew the same dangerous people. These weren't casual friendships. These were business relationships. Officer David Mack caught Poole's attention first. Bank robbery charges would later reveal Mack's criminal side. But in 1997, he was still wearing a badge. He owned expensive cars that his salary couldn't explain. He flashed cash at nightclubs where gang members gathered. Most troubling of all, he was close friends with known associates of death row records. The deeper Poole dug, the more resistance he faced. His supervisors pulled him from promising leads. They reassigned key evidence to other detectives. They told him to focus on smaller, less important details. When he pushed back, they pushed harder. Internal affairs investigations began to surface, revealing a web of corruption that stretched through multiple departments. Officers were moonlighting as security for record labels. They were providing inside information about police operations. Some were allegedly involved in criminal activities themselves. Witness after witness reported intimidation. They described visits from people claiming to be police officers, phone calls in the middle of the night, cars following them home from work. The message was always clear: stay quiet about what you saw that night in March. The federal government eventually stepped in, but even their investigation hit walls. Documents were missing. Computer files had been deleted. Officers claimed they couldn't remember crucial details about one of the most high-profile murders in Los Angeles history. Detective Poole tried to blow the whistle. He wrote reports detailing the corruption he witnessed. He presented evidence to his superiors. He begged them to pursue the real leads. Instead, they transferred him away from the case entirely. Years passed without arrests. The investigation grew cold, not from lack of evidence, but from lack of will to pursue it. Public trust in the LAPD crumbled as more details emerged about their handling of the case. The truth remained buried under layers of institutional protection, corrupt relationships, and deliberate obstruction. Justice for Christopher Wallace seemed further away than ever, lost in a system designed to protect itself rather than serve the community it was sworn to defend. The Unsolved Case, the legacy of unanswered questions. 27 years have passed since that March night in Los Angeles. The case files remain open. The questions grow louder with each passing year. Detectives still receive tips. New witnesses come forward. Old evidence gets examined with fresh eyes. Yet the truth feels as distant as ever. Each lead seems to vanish like smoke in the night air. The internet buzzes with theories. Fans gather in forums, sharing photos and timelines. They point fingers at different suspects. Some blame rival rappers. Others suspect corrupt police officers. A few whisper about music industry conspiracies. Private investigators work the case for free. They chase down old contacts. They interview former gang members who are now middle-aged fathers. These men speak in hushed tones about that dangerous time when music and street life mixed like fire and gasoline. Biggie's mother still seeks answers. She appears in documentaries, her pain visible after all these years. She speaks about her son not as a rap legend, but as Christopher, the boy who loved to make people laugh. Her questions echo those of millions of fans who refuse to let the mystery die. Hip-hop changed after that night. Artists became more careful. Security increased at concerts. The playful battles between East and West Coast rappers turned serious. Young musicians learned that words could become bullets. New rappers study Biggie's story like a cautionary tale. They see how quickly fame can turn deadly. They watch documentaries about his life and death. They rap about seeking justice for fallen legends. The mystery has become part of hip-hop folklore. It sits alongside other unsolved cases that haunt the music world. Fans create tribute songs that demand answers. They organize marches calling for justice. Police departments change leadership. New commissioners promise fresh investigations. They assign new detectives to cold cases. Yet the files remain thick, with dead ends and conflicting witness statements. The silence from those who know the truth grows heavier each year. Someone out there holds the key to what really happened. They carry secrets that could bring peace to a grieving family and closure to a culture still wounded by loss. Today, young people discover Biggie's music on streaming platforms. They hear his voice and wonder how someone so talented could be gone so soon. They ask the same questions their older siblings asked 20 years ago. The mystery lives on, passed down like a ghost story that refuses to rest.